But now I'm going to give you some real data. This is very scary stuff, but it's not going to be news to you. I was at a school, and at that school, it was in 2001, they threw out 10% of years 7, 8 and 9. The reason they threw them out was because the teacher said, we refuse to teach these animals. They were behaving like animals. They were violent and intimidating and aggressive and destructive people. Very little attention sort of seeking stuff. It was quite horrible, hurtful. So they took them out. And then they had to give them an independent program, which they did. But while I was there, I collected their progress reports. I thought that would be interesting to see what they were like. And now remember, there are 18 in this group of 207, and all 4 year level coordinators said they were totally destroying learning, and actually quite dangerous. Okay, now, first thing you notice is 40% boys and 60% boys and 40% girls in that group. How many of the 18 do you think were boys? What do you reckon? Answer is 18. All of them. All of them. Now that's changing a little in the last 5 years, and you'll read about that in the research too. But still, the girls are lagging behind a bit, so they'll hopefully not catch up. But the boys are the major problems, and that has to do, I will argue, with learning styles. Likewise, I would say Indigenous populations in every country I go to are overrepresented, and I will say that has to do with learning styles. But no one's doing the research. Because if your culture does not have texts, but has songlines and dance, then you may not be able to learn as effectively, and you will feel pretty stupid in a situation that is not like that. Just possible. Okay, so these are their reports. You ready? First of all, there are only, and I'll get there for the maths teachers, there are only 17 there because one didn't turn up at all, apparently. But they do not do words, because look, they just don't do words. We do words, they don't. So that's why I say they don't miss the gorilla, you do. You say things to them, they don't hear you. Now you can understand maybe they just don't hear you. They don't process your words. So you can stand there, if you lecture at them, it's a disaster. If you talk to them like you're a parent, it's a waste of time. They're not even hearing the word. It's like the gorillas in the room and you don't notice. It's exactly the same. They're quite capable of not hearing the words. They say about ADHD, they hear about, I don't know, 4 words in 20 or something. I don't know, some partial message. It was really funny because unfortunately Ken Rowe died in the bushfires, but Ken Rowe was a friend of mine at ACR, and he came at this from a linguistic perspective, and he came to the same place, and it was really cute because I was at ACR a couple of years ago, and he played me this little tape he had from a woman who'd rung in. He'd been on a morning show like Good Morning Australia or something, whatever they are called these days, and he'd said the same things as I say. You know, when you're dealing with boys, you've got to have strong physical presence and eye contact and not too many words, you know, so you get good eye contact and then you say their name and then you wait and they register you and then you say what you want in very short words and then you wait for compliance, you know, and then they'll do it if you sort of... So he sort of doing the same as our assertive stuff. And this woman rang up and it was really cute. It sort of goes like this, you know, I want to talk to Professor Rowe. Sorry, madam, he's gone. He's left the studio, but he will get this tape, so if there's anything you want to tell him, feel free to say, you know, whatever. Well, I just want to say that was fantastic what he did this morning. I listened and I thought I'd try it out on my husband. So I went to my husband and I looked him in the eyes and I said, George. And then I waited and then I told him what I wanted him to do. And I waited for compliance and he did it. And he said to me, Mabel, that's the first thing I've understood you've said in 30 years. And sort of, it's a character, it's just on the tape, it's just like almost word for word, it's just spooky that there is such a disparity. And that's why when we talk about the C kids, you've got to be careful how many words these kids can process, because if they're real Ds, they're not processing half of it. Cs can. So they don't do that. They don't do science very well, but 2 at least was satisfactory. And yet I've taught these kids in science and they can do the pracs brilliantly. You give them a rat to cut up, they will not nick anything. They'll actually get it perfect, they'll lay it out, but that's as far as it goes. After that, oh, they'll throw the eyes around and stuff like that, but they will not, they are really good with the fine motor, but not words. And have anyone read a science exam recently or a test? Try it sometime. It's about the next if you did a language analysis, it is extremely complicated language, because by the time you put your provisos in science, you've got 3 commas in a sentence. So they can't read them. So they're going to fail. And I often wonder what that feels like, but I don't like to think about it too much. So they know science, but they just can't demonstrate it. They don't do SOS very well, but not too bad, I suppose, given they're the worst kids in the school. Maths is a little bit better because it's got fewer words. Then you notice that these 5 people by name are part of the 8, part of the 11 and part of the 12. So we've got to exclude these from our considerations now, because they don't do school. It's got nothing to do with learning styles or anything. They don't do school. And Glass has written a really nice article on this, because he aimed it at teachers in America, most of whom had been divorced. So he aimed it at the divorced person, and he said, imagine that your ex had something that they thought you needed to understand to improve the quality of your life. Would you entertain the discussion? And most people sort of said, you've got to be joking, This guy, he doesn't even know who I am. That's why he's my ex, right? He doesn't understand me. He doesn't know what I need. He can't help me. And that's how these guys feel. And so that's when Glasser went into the needs that were being met, not being met. These guys have needs. Schools don't meet them. So these 5 have none of their needs met at school, so they do not cooperate. Why should they? You don't even know who they are. They think. And they're right, by the way, because I looked at what these teachers recommended to these guys, and it's really cute. They do much the same in technology. Now, if you take out the 5, it's a bit easier to understand, because then you've got 7 borderline, 6 satisfactory. That makes sense, because those 5 aren't really doing anything in school. They're just there physically. Of course, when you get to art, it's starting to pick up again, because, as you say, they're not like us. We're the ones who aren't good at art and music and mime. When it comes to phys ed, they're pretty good, probably a better distribution.